But first, it really would be pretty extraordinary for our Prime Minister to be in a meeting with China's President Xi last week, as he was in San Francisco, days after an incident in Japanese waters where Chinese naval action injured Australian naval divers, and make no mention of it. If that's what happened. But today, even when asked pointedly about this naval incident that occurred last Tuesday, but which we only found out about yesterday, the PM was careful, indeed tricky, with his language.
You're copping a fair bit of flack over it, accusations you didn't raise it with the Chinese leadership in San Francisco. Can you clear that up?
Well, we've raised it very clearly through all of the normal channels. But I can assure you that we raised these issues in the appropriate way.
Now listen carefully. When he says we did this and we did that, that's political code for my government, but not necessarily me. If it was the PM who raised it personally, you can bet, given the kerfuffle, he would admit it now. And his line that leaders don't raise issues like this with other leaders, or if they do, they don't discuss it publicly, well, that's rubbish. That wasn't true of Tony Abbott, who took President Putin, Russian President Putin, to task over the shooting down of MH17. It wasn't true of Scott Morrison either, who took on the Chinese over the origins of COVID and the need for an independent investigation. Indeed, this smacks to me of a PM trying to avoid telling Australians he didn't tackle the Chinese president over injury to our Navy personnel because he was unwilling to do or say anything that might upset the communist regime, even where standing up for Australia's national interest is the right thing to do. So here is what we know, that a Chinese warship did turn on its sonar, knowing that there were Australian divers nearby, operating as they were quite legitimately, and then causing them injury. Given those facts are known, a full explanation now is required. The PM talked in riddles today, and the public deserve to know exactly what discussions took place between Australian and Chinese officials and what explanations were offered. And what discussions, if any, took place between the leaders, and if none, why not? Pretending, as I said, he can't discuss the specifics of the meeting because that's protocol, well, that is rubbish. In fact, that tells me more than anything else that he didn't speak up for our sailors, that he left the remonstrating to junior diplomats, lest he end up back in China's freezer like Scott Morrison. Now, we need to be clear about three things here. First, while we want nothing but good relations with the Chinese government and have nothing but goodwill and respect for the Chinese people, under the current regime in Beijing, there's a regional and global struggle for dominance now underway between China and the United States and her allies, meaning us. Now, that battle's a reality. It's happening now, and we can't just pretend it away because it makes for hard choices. Second, as part of that struggle, Chinese military ships and aircraft are constantly testing what they can get away with to see how much bullying there can be without pushback. And third, as an ally of the United States and a close strategic partner to Japan, and as a friend to all those countries now under pressure from Beijing, Vietnam, the Philippines, particularly Taiwan, our ships and planes should be operating in these areas, exercising all the rights of freedom of navigation that Beijing wants to control. And where our military personnel are interfered with, at the very least, we should call it out. Anything less than that, well, it's a weakness in the face of a bully. The government owes us a full explanation of exactly what happened and exactly how it has responded. If it's government policy not to make the fuss about bad behaviour from Beijing, well, that's wrong in principle. If it's a prime ministerial personal choice not to risk confronting a powerful interlocutor, well, that goes to the character of a national leader and reinforces the doubts that have been growing about whether Anthony Albanese is up to it. After his recent visit, a video of Anthony Albanese's walk apparently went viral, along with the Chinese Premier's admiration of, and I quote, the handsome boy we had as Prime Minister. Now, at the time in Beijing, the PM laughed it off, amused at social media interest, but blind to the fact that in Chinese terms, this was a real put down. A mere handsome boy, or handsome or not, a boy on a man's errand. And doesn't it show when our bloke can't even bring himself to stick up for our Navy?